Go live. Hi, Jim. I think we're live. We're live on YouTube here now.
Ron Paris, how you doing?
I'm hanging in there. You know, spending a lot of time worrying about how to take content, put it in my React applications. It's a big concern I'm currently having.
Luckily, it's a solved issue, right? It's a solved issue.
Is this something that's already been solved? I know you go way back at AppSec. Maybe this is something that you guys already solved, and I'm kind of reinventing the wheel here in React. What's the preferred way to do it? What I want people to be able to author like rich content, via some kind of widget, and then I want to be able to take the output of that and have it placed in the DOM and have it still, contain like whatever markup they put in there, like underlines, bold, those things.
How is your user submitting markup to your API in the first place? Are you doing something like Tiny MCE or CK editor, using one of the generic like WYSIWYG editors on the web, basically?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think I'm in the React world. So what I'm doing is I just have like a text input box, and then I'm just going to grab out of whatever they put in the text input box and then render that as markdown using a library like Mark. And then I can take the output, which is HTML. And my current idea is that I'm going to take that and maybe just like jam it directly into dangerously set in HTML. But that feels like it's probably not the best move.
Yeah, you're toying with me. I deserve it. But Ron, this is a solved issue. Ron knows his stuff. He's messing with me. It's okay. But this is a solved issue, Ron. All we do is we take any user-generated HTML, whether you go through Markdown or go direct through Tiny MCE or a CK editor. The key step in application security today is to use an HTML sanitizer. In the JavaScript world, there's DOMpurify, which I think is the better one. And then there's this other sanitized library, which is commonly used. But Ron, you don't need to rewrite. This is a solved issue. It's a secure solution, DOMpurify, and we can move on. And podcast done. You're welcome.
All right. Well, this could be a short podcast. But all right, let me show you a little bit of what I'm up to on my screen.
Let's see what you got.
I'm seeing what my app's looking like.
Like DOMpurify is the answer, right? DOMpurify.
Okay. So it could be. I mean, it's a good project and all. But okay, so I've got this thing here on the left that says you can get secure coding help, and then you're going to type your question in. So this is where I was thinking about putting the ability to have like markdown. So I could be like urgent in here or whatever I want to put, and then I'm going to grab the contents out of here. So let's go look at the code itself. And what you're saying is over here, when I get passed in the props, so props data text. So I should just take, I'm going to import mark, which I'm going to use to do the conversion.
Props is part of create element in React. That's one of the non-escaped arguments, basically.
Yeah, well, props is props the data I got from above the tree, exactly. So I got the data, and then I come in here, and then you said I should import DOMpurify. Let's try that.
From what, Cure 53 or something? Oh, just from DOMpurify. Got a space.
I think I might have installed it already. Let's check this out.
So folks, we're looking at how to handle user-generated HTML. And by the way, even if a user is doing Markdown, the conventional wisdom is go from Markdown to HTML and then run that HTML through DOMpurify, and that's what you render to other users. This is the conventional wisdom of the day. I feel like Ron's disputing this conventional wisdom, and I'm ready to hear it.
Okay. Did I install DOMpurify? Let's see. This is which application? Yeah, I'm on the dashboard. All right. Okay, it looks like I don't have it installed. I have Marked installed. So you were saying I should pop over to NPM and take a look at DOMpurify. Oh, here it is. Is this the project? DOMpurify, 1 million gallons a week. Looks pretty good.
Yep.
I just want to look it up real quick in a vulnerability database and see how it's doing. Do you normally do that? I use a Sneak database, most up to date.
I'll use your NPM audit or Sneak or whatever I have access to, right?
Yeah. So here's the Sneak one, and I got DOMpurify loaded up. So it looks like we got a few bypasses recently. Process scripting makes me a little bit nervous because I feel like if there's a bypass, relatively often, what if I install it now and then like I don't update it and I have perfect,
Can you show me
control of my
stats
dependency?
on how often it's used in a secure? Like I know that NPM has some features where I can look at its use that's come out recently.
Yeah, so it looks like here NPM's saying, all right, so number of downloads in the last 7 days. So it looks like this many people in the last 7 days downloaded the most recent version. So that's the one with the security fix.
That's a lot. Wow, that's a lot of downloads.
If we scroll back, we could see that people are kind of like downloading older versions, some of which might or might not have patches. I actually wrote a little script for this purpose for analyzing libraries just to check out their attack surface. So like I was looking at sanitize HTML, we just look at like DOMpurify and see what percentage of the installs. So it looks like 34% of the installs in the last 7 days of DOMpurify currently contain a bypass.
Wait. This is the last. Wait. Can you hit that a little harder? Tell me what you just said one more time.
So
my brain just hurt hearing that.
So what this little thing does that I built is it just goes and it pulls some database information from open source, of vulnerabilities and what versions are affected, and then it compares them to the download history API that NPM provides, and it'll tell you like what's the count of vulnerable version installs in the last 7 days. So 34% of the people who installed DOMpurify in the last 7 days installed a version that currently contains a vulnerability.
All right, that I have not seen that statistic before. It makes sense to me, and that's disturbing. The conventional wisdom is, just keep all your libraries up to date. But to your point, that's not the norm in the real world.
Yeah, it feels like people aren't necessarily able to do that for probably a variety of reasons. So
and I'm not a fan of the sanitize HTML library. I'd rather see DOMpurify. As we see, it's got more secure installs, but that's horrific. 80%. Let me see if I got this straight. 80% of people who downloaded sanitize HTML, one of the more common HTML sanitizers in the React and JavaScript ecosystem, 80% in the last 7 days downloaded a bypassable version of that security library. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's what the stats are saying. Seeing it.
That's bleeped up. That's really bleeped up, Ron.
And that's just because it's hard to constantly be updating, to the latest version. And this one came out relatively recently. We can see that there was a vulnerability, in February. So if something came out really recently,
I am questioning my advice to use DOMpurify. I'm gonna say use DOMpurify and keep it up to date. That's really easy to say, but to your point, it is not the norm of what happens in the world.
Right. Yeah.
I'm disturbed. You disturbed me, Ron. You've now you have. It's a Friday night. I'm about to enjoy my weekend, and you've put disturbing truths in my head on a Friday night. Can you please? I need you to heal me before I can continue on with my weekend. So I know there's a solution. I know you're going to show me the solution. We've been arguing about this for months. I'm now a believer. I am a believer in the way of Ron. Bring me to the truth, Ron. Take me to the promised land.
Just to talk a little more about DOMpurify, it works. It actually the library works. I mean, it takes the content, it creates the representation of the DOM, uses a whitelist, it walks through, it grabs everything that it thinks it should include in the output. It's using like a really good approach. The issue is right at the end when you have the content, you turn it into a string, and then you insert that string into dangerously set HTML. And that's the part where it's dangerous. I mean, saying, hey, give me something and I'll take, I'll just remove all the bad stuff by just grabbing the good stuff, and then I'll give you back something that you could safely put into inner HTML. That's just a dangerous proposition, because what we've seen is that there's some confusion that can be created about what kind of context the parser should be in when it's doing the sanitization versus what kind of context the parser is in when it's doing the inner HTML, turning that string back into a document. And because of the difference in the way that the parsers are working, that's where you have the cross-site scripting attacks. So I'd say it'd be better if we could find a solution that doesn't rely on inner HTML. That'd be my preference. So what do we have here? We've got Mark.
Does this mean I can't use something like I really like Tiny MCE because it's the ultimate WYSIWYG editor on the web. Are you recommending we go away from stuff like that, or is there a way I can still use I can still use tiny MCE and go HTML, just do something safer with it. Is that possible? Or
You totally can. And
all right,
so specific to the React ecosystem, let's look at a project here that I would recommend. There's something called HTML to React. It's a library that converts raw HTML, like here you have HTML, and it converts that underneath the hood to calls to React create element. So instead of taking something and sticking it into the inner HTML, instead it carefully walks through a structured tree object and it matches only the allowed tags and attributes, just like what DOMpurify does under the hood. But in this case, if instead of taking the output as a string, it takes the individual tags and attributes and uses the DOM's native APIs. In this case, we use React's create element, and create element has security protections built in. React create element doesn't use any dangerous script syncs under the hood.
So you're converting arbitrary HTML to clean React code using a library, a lightweight library that does this well. And what's your next step then? So now you have this chunk of React code. You're not just going to dump it in live. Is there anything you need to do to make sure that markup is safe before you render it? Or,
well, like in the case of markdown, which is the one that I'm concerning myself with, there's a library that takes markdown, converts the markdown to an HTML structure, then converts that to the React nodes. And the way that I know that this is working correctly, and I'm not exposing myself to any dangerous scripts, is that there's a project out there. I think maybe we've talked about before, but it's called Trusted Types.
Yeah.
If we take a look at here, I can turn on Trusted Types. I can say, hey, I want to load this Trusted Types polyfill, and then I want to set some content security policy and say that there is some policy in Trusted Types called foo, and then I want to require Trusted Types for any script injections. And as you might or might not know, Trusted Types is now going to throw anytime I attempt to insert something into a dangerous script sync. So if I try to do any dynamic script content additions to the DOM, then Trusted Types is going to cause my application to throw. So again, I essentially just disabled all script syncs by including this CSP.
The user submits HTML. HTML is converted to React. React is added to the DOM directly through
React create element.
React create element, and Trusted Types is enabled. So that's done. So if anything is done with a dangerous script execution block or sync, you're blocked from doing it. And the browser protects you.
Exactly.
Whoa. That's pretty progressive. That's pretty modern. That's using a lot of modern techniques to pull this off, but it sounds radically safer.
Yeah, well, if you look at the documentation for Trusted Types, it has a recommendation to use DOMpurify, because what you can do with Trusted Types, instead of just blocking all scripts, is you can say, depending on the type of script sync that I'm trying to put some content into, I want to run it through some policy code, and maybe that policy code does something like uses DOMpurify to the hood to make it safe. But as we saw, the issue with doing that is that in 35% of the cases, you're still vulnerable.
Or in the case of sanitized HTML library, 80%, you're 80% of real world users who download the library just in the last 7 days, they're vulnerable. And that, like I said, that's disturbing, Ron Paris, on a Friday night.
So I feel better about this solution. So let's see if we can make it actually work. So I'm going to start up.
You know who's talking about this, by the way? Nobody. Just nobody's talking about this. Just me and you. And so this is, I like bleeding a little bit. We're on the bleeding edge a bit, but no one complains about DOMpurify. They just say, use it, update it, and move on. But there's more to it. I got you.
Yeah. The reason why I'm interested in this is that I look at a lot of library code as part of the node security work group. And I've noticed that whenever somebody is doing something that they say is going to be safe, and then the output of that is that you're going to put it into a dangerous script sync, they tend to make a mistake. And the idea is that everybody just at that point recommends, hey, just grab DOMpurify. It doesn't matter if the library did its job correctly, just grab DOMpurify. But it's like, yeah, then what happens when DOMpurify doesn't do its job correctly? So it's kind of this cascading thing. It's like, if there is a way to do it in a safer way by default, just using the built-in browser APIs, then why don't we just enable that? And it also makes it a lot easier when you're enforcing things like a content security policy to be using the correct browser APIs instead of having to build in some exception where you trust your content as long as it passes through this extra thing. And I think in the long run, I'd rather just use the browser APIs. I trust those more.
I concur. And then the update problem goes away. Browsers auto update and similar. And so I think we're going to see users update browsers more than we're going to see developers update third-party libraries. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. And I think you're going to have fewer bypasses coded into the browser itself than you are going to have in just third-party, managed libraries. No matter how good the team behind the library is, I think the browser teams are a little bit bigger and more sophisticated.
All right, my brain hurts already. But I'm now with you.
Okay,
I'm now with you. I'm willing to hear you out. This is fantastic.
I appreciate it, Jim. It's me and you here, buddy.
We're on a podcast together. I might as well, right?
Yeah, it seems like you probably
we're broadcasted live. I might as well.
Is my server going to start? Be nice if it did. Computer's running a little bit slow today. I think it's something about the streaming setup. Here we go. So now we're back to our dashboard and we can see, all right, so we got this thing. So currently it's not doing anything with our markdown. It's just sending it to us as raw output. So what I want to do is I want to try to change this code so that we can render the markdown that we received. So I've got trusted types enabled, and I'm going to try to, at first, I'm just going to use the DOMpurify strategy. So I'm going to import mark. Import. Change this around so that let's give so it's inner HTML.
Oh my.
Nothing like some exciting live coding at the end of the day on a Friday, huh, Jim?
Living dangerously, Ron. No, I love this stuff. It's great. I spent this morning teaching a 2-hour class. I spent like an hour going over some jot verification code strategy integrated with Ping with one of my client developers. I've been doing coding all day. Let's do more coding.
More coding.
I'm getting ready to set up the Google Mesh Wi-Fi in my house as well to have mesh Wi-Fi across the house. So it's a geek day. Friday is a geek day. I love it.
Props.data.txt.
Props.data.txt. Yeah.
Cool.
I love being a backseat coder. That's my favorite kind of coding where someone else is typing. I'm just telling them, hey, do that. Hey, it's horrible if you're doing it, but fun it's horrible if you're coding with a backseat coder, but it's super fun to be a backseat coder. But it's terrible to actually listen to one, in my experience.
Yeah.
This looks beautiful to me, Ron. Before you ruined my worldview with your truth and science, this was my worldview of how to do it right, and I realize it's not. I realize it's got issues that are attached with it.
It's all about purify real quick.
I realize that my idealism, my security architecture idealism, doesn't help the 20+% of folks in the last 7 days who pulled down insecure versions. Maybe NPM could do something about that. Never mind. I'm gonna stop that now. NPM. Where's that Adam Barth? Damn you, Adam Barth. No, that's not fair. Adam's a nice guy. He tries.
Okay, so we installed DOMpurify. We got
I really want to blame like Sonatype for Maven. I want to blame NPM for their catalog of insecure libraries. I want to go blame the .NET ecosystem for all their NuGet problems, but that's not fair to say to all those folks. Like, if you're holding on a code repo and someone says, "Give me this insecure library now, please," what are you supposed to say to them? No.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a technology that could assure the code security of libraries in a registry, that right there would be an amazing thing. I don't think anybody has one of those. I don't even think Apple and Google try to do that, do they? I mean, if you submit an app to the App Store, they don't do like source code verification, make sure there's no library, like no vulnerabilities, right?
What assurance they do is debatable, but they do some assurance.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a pretty hard. I mean, if you should solve that problem, that'd be impressive. I think, yeah, the Node ecosystem, we have so many reusable libraries at this point that are all just, sitting in NPM. I think we're up to like 1.5 million different packages. So I don't think anybody's going to go through and audit them all, make sure they don't take all of those.
Ron, if a JavaScript developer decides to build a new framework from scratch, I think they should be banned from development for at least a couple of years, because we don't need new frameworks. We really don't.
No, we're done. Which one do you like?
What do I like?
Yeah.
My favorite is React.
Okay.
My second favorite is Vue.
Okay.
I really like I really do like Angular for its security properties, but the maintenance of Angular is off the chart. I think it's like 3 or 4 times as much as other. So I have to add one label. I got to change like 10 files. I'm exaggerating, but I don't like the design of Angular. It's when you throw a bunch of PhDs in a room, you get Angular. I'm just not a fan. But I do like React. I think it's a good balance of ease of use and capability and reasonable security. Not great, and I do give Angular credit. Their security is really locked down well. They built a good lib. What about you?
Yeah, I used Angular JS when it came out, and it was like, interesting. And then when they moved to TypeScript, I didn't follow along. I went over to the React ecosystem, and I just kind of stayed with React. But yeah, I've heard good things as well about the Angular. This okay. So now do I have the module? Is it happy yet? All right. So does this this doesn't look very clean to me. So this is the most standard approach. So you took some markdown, you ran it through marked, and something that a lot of people don't know is that markdown is a superset of HTML, meaning that any valid HTML is also valid markdown. So mark doesn't by default escape any HTML content. So if you had HTML content in the text message, it's going to show up on the other side of marks. But what mark's going to do is it's going to take any special characters that are significant to markdown, and it's going to render them as markdown. So look what just happened here. So I ran marked, I grabbed the data text, and then I was trying to use DOMpurify and run sanitize, and then I tried to shove that into the HTML, dangerously set in our HTML here, and you can see on the right I have this big giant error. I have a type error that was thrown. This was thrown from trusted types. It's saying, failed to set outer HTML on HTML body element. This property requires trusted HTML. The reason why I can't do what I want to do here using dangerously set inner HTML is because at a lower layer in the browser, trusted types, because I set it with this content security policy, trusted types is blocking all script syncs. So it's kind of like if somebody had set this policy, I wouldn't be able to ship anything using dangerously set inner HTML. Gotcha. So if you really want to stop your developers from using dangerously set inner HTML, the nuclear option is to go grab trusted types, check that in there, and just start blocking. And of course, the documentation doesn't recommend throwing and not catching it.
Right.
Trusted types documentation recommends like setting up a report URI and then setting it to the report URI. And then once you don't get any more reports, then you set it into blocking mode. So a much more subtle way of doing things. But this would be the nuclear option. You like it, Jim? Is this? Do you condone this nuclear option?
It makes me feel a sense of warmth and comfort inside. But again, I have my theory, and if I keep DOMpurify up to date rigorously, this is okay. But the reality says otherwise. Reality says more than 20% of React downloads in the last 7 days, this would have been completely insecure. This would have been easily bypassable with known public exploits against DOMpurify, and it's not going to work.
So I guess, now we also know something about our application, and that's that if we use another library, like one of these React libraries that converts HTML to React, and it works to put our content onto the page, and it properly changes, the document and adds the correct elements, we know that it's not doing anything dangerous from a scripts perspective. because if it was, our trusted types policy would prevent it from doing that.
Gotcha.
So that kind of tells us that whatever, if we do use a library, it's not using like some underneath the hood dangerous way of getting things done. So here I'm going to import, instead of these two, import React Markdown. And instead of doing this stuff, I've got another div. And actually, I would just do this on itself. And set, I think it's called children prop on that. Equal to, let's pass into here, props.data.text. Close that up. Okay. And
I'm checking Twitter for questions. I'm still here.
Sure. And if I get that over here, load it. Now I'm going to check my chat message. So we can see that it actually rendered my markdown correctly. Take a look inside of here. So here's the message that it renders. It's a div, and then there's the p tag, which is this is my issue, and then there's this pre tag and this code tag that has the data that came over from the other side. So let's try to send another chat message, make it a little more obvious in the example here. So let's say I want to send an urgent request. I want to know about cross-site scripting, and I say. And I throw in some JavaScript. I say, oh yeah, my rest.send contains my request objects params.data. I want to know why that's a vulnerability. Submit that. And on this side, go down here, open this up. You can see how it is taking my markdown content and doing the right thing with it. So what that tells me is that it is working. It's just not doing it in a dangerous way.
But how do I know it's safe, though? Can you give me an example of like an attack that gets blocked? That would be interesting. Because I just worry, what stops me from putting dangerous stuff in my HTML that gets converted to React that still has dangerous content in it in some way? Is that even possible for an attacker to do?
So at this point, I'm relying on trusted types for that.
Gotcha.
So I'm saying, I believe that trusted types covered all the script syncs. And I believe that if I touch any of them in any way, that it's going to throw in a way that's not caught, it's going to cause my application not to work.
So if I go to DOMpurify, I should be able to see all the safe syncs within HTML. And if I go look at trusted types, they list out all the dangerous syncs in HTML. And I think that's super interesting intellectual property, right? So again, if you want to figure out every single safe attribute and markup, view source on DOMpurify, it's all listed.
Right.
And if you want to see every single dangerous sync within the world of JavaScript, go look at trusted types. And and now I really understand the whole attack surface of HTML, of a web page now with those two pieces of intellectual property. We got Mario Heidrich on DOMpurify. He's been doing this for a decade. We got Chris Christoph at Google and his team doing trusted types. That's some special knowledge, in my opinion. Just thought that's kind of interesting.
Oh yeah, and I saw when he was doing that work, Kato was doing that work, I saw him open a few vulnerabilities on at least one Linter project that I saw where he was like, oh, it turns out this is also a script sync. Because I mean, that wasn't like you were saying, that wasn't cataloged. People didn't have like, hey, here's the firm list of all the script syncs. It was like, it's still being, which is crazy, right? Considering browsers have been around as long as they have.
Wait, I call him Chris Christoph or Mr. Christoph. What do you call him?
Isn't he Kato on Twitter?
I'm not on a first name basis with him like you are.
I'm not either, but I'm just saying, sorry. I use Twitter for
I
most
didn't
things.
I didn't mean it that way. Chris Christoph is one of my heroes. He really is, because it's a hard job. What is he basically runs a team of degenerate hackers at Google to go hack stuff. And he's a great contributor to the world of open source, pushing web standards. He works with Spagnuolo and Weichelbaum, some of the best CSP people out there. I really am a big fan of him and his team and what they do for web security. I love this guy. He's Kato. Okay, gotcha. He's my hero. And Mario, Mario's a special person. I've known him for over a decade. He's a gift to application security as well. No offense, if you're listening, Mario. No offense. We're just here to help, Mario. We're here to help.
Yeah, no, DOMpurify, I think it's based on a strategy that Google used. And that was those videos Live Overflow did like a year and a half ago, where he showed the bypass in the same approach that Google was using as well. So I think using inner HTML is where it gets scary.
I agree. I'm with you, Ron.
All right, you're sold?
I'm sold.
All right, now I got to go and ship that tiny MCE editor into this thing somehow and do it with trusted types turned on.
Can we wrap this solution in libraries and make it a little bit more like the benefit of DOMpurify is, oh no, you're living dangerously. And I'm like, drop it in, done. So it's not a difficult solution. Is there a way we can make this non-sanitizing solution rendering user-generated HTML? Is there a way we can make this a little more drop-in like we see at DOMpurify? And we didn't talk about this. I'm just talking out loud.
Well, yeah. I mean, for example, that HTML to React for React, that's what that is, right? It's a drop-in. You take HTML and turn it into React. I've looked at some other ones though. Which one was it? Was it called a pin node or something? Node append. So this is a foot gun right here. I don't know if you know that, but let me see if I have.
A what now? A what?
There is a foot gun here. I'll show you.
Using foot guns in development sounds painful. Is that a metaphor? I'm not sure what that means. Yeah. Oh, it's a library to shoot yourself in the foot, is what you're saying.
Right. So there are some libraries out there called, I found a few of them, so like safe append, append safely, add safely to DOM. There's like a few different libraries out there that are like, hey, you can use inner HTML, but you're safe because I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do what I've been proposing, which is I'm gonna take your content and I'm gonna oh, here it is, node stringify. So check this one out. Luckily, it's not highly downloaded.
I'm scared.
Convert HTML.
Stringification is an inherently unsafe process in the first place. But go on, ignore me.
Check out what it does. It converts HTML strings, right? Like what we're going to get out of our markdown parser, into DOM nodes without using inner HTML.
This sounds lovely.
And the reason it says was created to be used in conjunction with marked, which is the exact markdown parser I'm using. It converts my markdown into an HTML string. In most scenarios, HTML string is then added to the DOM using elements inner HTML. However, there's possible security risks with using inner HTML. We can agree on that. To avoid these, use node stringify to convert strings. The thing is about this library is that the approach it takes does not work. What it does is it just walks the DOM tree and then just naively creates elements based on whatever it received in the string. So it creates a new DOM parser, it parses from string, gets that result, and then it just goes to the child nodes and walks them one at a time and creates new DOM nodes. And as you know, what the problem with that would be, it's what if you create like an image tag with a on air handler and you throw the image source equals X on there, it's going to create the exact same thing in the DOM and it's going to create cross-site scripting.
Yep.
So this library contains cross-site scripting. So you do need to be a little more sophisticated. You need to say, like you were saying about DOMpurify, that part of DOMpurify works great. What's the whitelist of allowed elements? What's the whitelist of allowed attributes? Those are the things that I'm interested in using. Those are those things I want in my resulting output.
A little tangential comment. When you're using really progressive content security policies and you enable notsing of individual scripts and you're using strict dynamic and similar, if my script is still like adding a script tag like through text and adding it to markup and that's still not, that doesn't get to run. But if I programmatically like using the create elements, create a script, add a string to it, and that gets to bypass CSP. So I'm just worried if my markup is like
that's because it's set to not execute. But in that case, that's why.
What's that?
So if you add a script tag to the DOM and then you add text content to it, it shouldn't execute.
No, that if I have a not script and I have script source enabled and I'm gonna have inline script blocking, if I add a string that's a script tag loading a script from a third-party source, even though that block is nonce, that doesn't get to run. You're blocked. But if I have a nonce block and it's programmatically creating a script tag, not through text, right? Programmatically doing create node and similar, that gets to run. I thought that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I gotta look into that.
I'll show you later on, Ron. It's a little oddity, but it's tangential. I apologize. You're up. Keep going. I'm sorry.
No, I understand what you're saying, but yeah, I think you do. I mean, if you look at the code for that HTML to React, it does go through some effort to not include elements and attributes that would potentially be dangerous. It uses a allow list based approach where you're only including certain, just like DOMpurify, right? Like you were saying, there's an allow list of allowed tags and attributes. You don't want to include any tags and attributes that could possibly lead to script execution. So you are doing part of what DOMpurify does. The part that's hard about DOMpurify is when you export it as a string and then trust that string to be placed in inner HTML. That's where the risk is. It's not in the approach in the inside of the library. That's still the right approach. It's that last step.
And you saw Orange to Sai and like how he was able to bypass DOMpurify. I mean, to Mario's credit, these bypasses are non-trivial. They're really, but just that's the problem. Markup is HTML5 is too complicated. The bypasses we're using like script blocking. I forgot what it was, but they're using like the markup tags that disable JavaScript to switch in and out of these contexts unnaturally to get a bypass. That's some really heavy duty stuff. That still freaks me out when I watch Orange to Sai bypassing DOMpurify. That's pretty awesome. So they're hard, but HTML5 is too complicated, and the bypasses keep on coming every 3 to 6 months or so. And I'm with you, Ron. I want something safer, and I believe this is the way to go. I do.
All right, sounds good. We still need to have our conversation at some point about whether or not any of this even matters, because why does the data contain these dangerous things? But I think in a modern React app, you can't trust that your data object is going to be shaped the way you want it to be shaped. I think when you go to render, you got to be concerned that possibly the data that you're receiving isn't shaped exactly how you think it is.
I feel good, Ron.
Server-side validation necessarily saves you here.
I feel good about this, Ron.
All right. Well, I think that's probably enough for today, right? We got to go live our lives.
Can I do bonus round? If by the way, folks, if you want, you're done. And we're done for the day. I want to do one quick bonus. It'll only take me like less than 60 seconds, Ron. I know we're pushing a little bit, but I'm going to show you one thing real quick, which I think is kind of interesting.
You gonna share your screen?
Yeah. Give me one sec. And I'm gonna steal a slide from Spagnuolo and Weichelbaum, who are really the leading intellects in the world of content security policies. So I'm going to share my screen out. Host disabled participant screen sharing, Ron. Can I get in here?
Did it work? I think I just turned it on.
Zoom would like to, I got to open my system preferences. I gotta log into my little M1 here. I got to allow Zoom.
Maybe I have to make you a presenter or make you the host. Let's see. Yeah, make host. There we go.
I you know what, Ron? Next week. Hey, you want to talk about content security policy next week?
If you'll drive, I feel like I luck out every time I get content security policy to work. That's my feeling. I'm like, oh, it's working? Great.
Ron, we did enough. Let's talk about this next week. So let's do content security policy next week. I'll have something special, or the next podcast, maybe in 2 weeks.
Okay.
I'll have something special for us. It's your time. It's your turn to comment on some of my thoughts. I think we'll have a good time.
All right. Sounds good, Jim. I'll talk to you soon.
I salute you, Ron. You're awesome.